Jesus. Now, I know you can't see God, and maybe you don't even know what God means, but if you ask me to give you my best shot, I'm going to say, look at this life. That's as good as I can do. That's what the incarnation means for me as a Christian. It has nothing at all to do with tampering with the genetic makeup of Mary, but it does have everything to do with a world in which millions of people look at Caesar and says, yep, that's what a God looks like. That's our God. While certain weirdos looked at that Jewish peasant and said, no, here's what a God looks like. This is what our God is like. Now we need to understand that both of those are acts of faith. One was an act of faith in the Roman imperial theology. The other is an act of faith in kingdom theology. And in one form or another, we still have those theologies existing side by side today. And so the question then, as it is today, is what is the nature of your God? Is your God some tyrannical judge who only believes in a retributive justice and therefore must punish you, or at least a substitute for you, in order to love you? Is that what Jesus taught? Or did Jesus teach us a different view of God, a different point of view, when he taught us to call God Abba, Daddy, Papa? Is God judge, jury, and executioner? Or is God the loving parent of the parable that we call the prodigal son? This is Rembrandt's The Return of the Prodigal Son. It could just as easily have been called The Welcome by the Compassionate Father. For if you really understand the parable, it's not really about the son who left and went away. And it's not really about the son who stayed behind. Though they do have interesting characteristics that inform us about who we are. But this is really, folks, this is really a parable about the Father and the Father's love. Henri Nouwen, a Dutch theologian, in reflecting on Rembrandt's painting, says, seldom, if ever, has God's immanence, compassionate love been expressed in such a poignant way. Every detail of the Father's figure, his facial expression, his posture, the color of his dress, and most of all, the still gesture of his hands, speaks of the divine love for humanity that existed from the beginning and ever will be. It seems that the hands touched the back of the returning Son are the instruments of the Father's inner eye. The near blind Father sees far and wide. His seeing is an eternal seeing, a seeing that reaches out to all of humanity. It is a seeing that understands the lostness of women and men of all times and all places, that knows what immense compassion the suffering of those, or who knows with immense compassion the suffering of those who have chosen to leave home, that have cried oceans of tears as they got caught in anguish and agony. The heart of the Father burns with an immense desire to bring his children home. It is my prayer that we reflect that desire this Easter season as we invite people to come home for Easter, to be reconciled to God. It is precisely the immensity of the divine love that is the source of the divine suffering. God, creator of heaven and earth, has chosen to be first and foremost a father. Here, says Naaman, here is the God that I want to believe in. A father who from the beginning of creation has stretched out his arms in merciful blessing, never forcing himself on anyone, but always waiting, never letting his arms drop down in despair, but always hoping that his children will return, so that he can speak words of love to them and let his tired arms rest on their shoulders. God's only desire is to love and to bless. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. It is this image of God that I see in the Incarnation. This is the image of God lived out in the life of Jesus, whose life testifies to nonviolence, whose life witnesses to economic justice, whose life demonstrates acceptance of all people, who rejects patriarchy, who rejects imperialism, who rejects religious dogma that imposes holiness codes, whose only desire is to gather us into a holy embrace of love. What is the nature of your God? For me, the face of what God looks like in the flesh is Jesus, who tells us God is the waiting God.